Despite the solid performance of Kenyan athletes in track and field events, and not just at the IAAF Championships, it's quite ironic that the recognition these athletes command, not just at home but abroad as well, has barely been turned into commercial endorsements or advertising deals over here. Even at a time when Kenya's tourism sector is in a deep contraction, the Kenyan Tourism Board has not leveraged the attention provided by this stellar performance for its wider marketing campaign. Let's find out why. Maggie Ireri is the Managing Director of Trans-Africa Media, a sports marketing firm which operates within the region. She's with us in studio right now. Thank you for your time. Abroad, these athletes are treated like rock stars, but here in Kenya, there's virtually no adulation for them, no strong brands. Why is that?
That's a very interesting question. And the answer is quite simple. Most of the corporate Kenyan brands are used to team sponsorships like football, rugby. But when it comes to an individual sport like athletics, I don't think they understand or have the knowledge on how to use individual sportsmen to endorse their brands. So I would say it's a lack of knowledge, not a lack of interest.
But is the problem also a lack of awareness, perhaps, on the part of the athletes about how to best monetize their brands and what sort of rights come with having a brand and having intellectual property?
Yeah, that's definitely a factor, but it's also what I would call the business model in athletics that they are aware of. For them, when they're training in Kenya, they are aiming to go and compete internationally because that's where they know they'll get money. They are not, and the kind of money they win internationally is quite a lot. So that's what they plan for. They're not aware that they can get money from corporates locally. And at the same time, the kind of budget that the corporates locally are allocating to sponsoring athletes is not high. And therefore, if you're going to get maybe 100,000 or 200,000 just to endorse a brand here, why focus on that? And if you run internationally, you could end up with millions in your bank account. So why bother locally? So
there's essentially a problem of incentives here. But let's look at something you pointed out a little earlier. Besides Kiwi, Orange, the telecoms company, and of course Kenya Airways with the Sevens rugby team, there's barely any company in Kenya that actually builds its adverts around athletes or teams' performance. I mean, what's holding them back, at least from the corporate side?
I guess what I would say is, number one is lack of packaging. So the corporate may not know how to package these particular athletes in the form of a format of an advert that can generate a return on investment. And even if they were to run an advert or a commercial with an athlete, they don't know how to measure a return on investment. And with that, they're not able to justify to maybe their bosses or their board members to use athletes as celebrities for adverts. So for me, I would still say it's a lack of knowledge and lack of packaging in terms of communication.
And a lack of risk appetite as well?
I think the risk appetite is there, but if you cannot measure return on investment, then you cannot justify to your board members what to do.
Right. Okay. These reports we've seen, of course, of two Kenyan athletes doping. Isn't that a reputational concern as well, perhaps, for potential sponsors moving forward?
It definitely is. But what you need to know is that the number of Kenyans who are practicing clean sport are quite a large number. But those who are caught doping are few, and for sure, that is headline news, and it definitely affects sponsorship. But what has happened is that Athletics Kenya has really been working closely with the sponsors, ensuring that the athletes are tested on a regular basis to ensure that they don't end up in a situation where they're caught doping. So it's a situation that is not that major, but when it happens, it's news headlines, and definitely that could affect or deter a sponsor.
Indeed. We'll have to leave it there for the time being, though. Thank you for your insights tonight. We've been speaking to Maggie Ireri. She's a Managing Director of Transmedia East Africa.